there's definitely an awareness that things need to change. And, with the authorities that I work with, I must say that with the right timings and with the budget, if budget allows, the people who can make the decisions are beginning to make the decisions as to accessibility and access for things like changing facilities. National parks now are thinking about these changing rooms. So yeah, there has been I would say a big move in the last 5 years or so as I've been getting more and more involved in this and finding out more information about how we access the countryside. But I mean, as well as the wheelchair access, I mean, one of my other passions is also making them multisensory. So people with sight impediment can go out and enjoy a walk. I also think it's really important that people with hearing loss have right access to know where they can go to. So it's not just about wheelchair walks, it's also about creating that multi-sensory experience.
Projects vary greatly in complexity and type, but the way that we handle them is essentially the same. Following agreement with our clients, we design them using a CAD software such as CATIA V5, and then we show them to the client and either a chartered engineer or a professor from the university to validate their robustness, viability, and safety. The great thing about CAD designing our project is that it allows us to have the designs on file for other engineers to use in case we have a change of volunteers midway through a project or something else happens. In fact, with some of our partners like Meru, they've asked us to not fabricate the project at all and just merely send them designs. It also enables us to use the university workshops to 3D print some of our designs or build them by hand. Our projects vary greatly from either purely mechanical, like a holder which transfers cups of tea, which was initially 3D printed and then coated with a heat protective paint, or something like a camera holder which had elements of sewing and joining different types of materials to produce the final product. We've also done some much more electronics-heavy projects, such as a one-handed gaming controller, which used to be produced in the 90s, but was later discontinued by the major manufacturers. The engineers designed a new case and used the buttons from an existing controller to fabricate it. It's good to note that this controller can be used by most gaming consoles, such as Xbox and PlayStation, and also can be used on PCs. They used two 3D printing techniques. The first one didn't provide a high enough resolution, so they used this super advanced new technique only available at UCL to create the final product. Sometimes our projects use mechanical engineering to assist our clients with electronic devices, such as this wrist support device for use with tablets, which allow the user to use his iPad for a longer period of time. The engineering team made 3 rectangular rods from laser-cut acrylic and attached them together with bolts and self-locking nuts to allow for smooth movement. The acrylic rods were then attached to the PVC pipe by placing one of the rods through holes cut into the pipe that would allow the rod to fit perfectly. At the end of the rods, the engineering team attached a spring and a string that hung down with a loop of cloth at the end that acted as a sling for the wrist to go through. As such, the wrist was supported by the acrylic rods, which allowed for movement spanning most of the table. We receive art projects from established charities in the UK, such as Remap, Meru, and their associated partners such as the Joy of Sounds, the Swiss Cottage School, and most recently the NHS. We try to present our initiative as much as possible at internal events at UCL or external events, and we've been lucky to have been awarded with some fantastic awards, such as the Princess Diana Award and most recently a nomination to the Mayor of London Volunteering Awards in 2019. Now I'm going to hand this over to Daniel, who will be talking a little bit about his experience at Project Impactive.
Hello, my name is Daniel Domini, and I'm currently part of Project Impactive. I've just finished my first year at UCL studying natural sciences. And what attracted me to join Project Impactive was to join a student-led organisation that worked in the real world. That's what kind of attracted me to it. But also to foster that kind of collaboration between disabled people and non-disabled people. With myself being a disabled person, I really like to see that collaboration, because I think this is what is critical to Project Impactive's impact into society, that it enables these people, these engineers that currently do the projects, to go out in the workplace, go out when they leave university, but to realise with just such a small, change, our products that we make, how much more capable they can be, what the potential is if, the able-bodied people allow this change that we're asking for in this festival to happen. And it just helped, because I've always realised growing up as a disabled person, sometimes it's a bit awkward, for disabled people to kind of have that conversation with like non-disabled people, vice versa. And it just helps to break down those barriers and just, get rid of the stigma in terms of, there's lots of issues, will make the situation worse. So as part of Project Impact, we do lots of disability awareness training. And that's something we really want to look at going forward, because we want it to be highly relevant. Yeah, so I think this kind of work does help people to lead independent lives where they have a choice. I think that's what Project Impact does. As well as allowing people to do something, it gives them the choice to do something. So the aspects of Project Impactive that I'm most looking forward to in the future are really caused by this COVID outbreak. It's causing us to reconsider the way we do things, but it may cause us to have, work remote virtually, which may mean that we'll be able to reach more people over a geographic distance. It also really goes along with what we've been doing, because as a group of students, we are obviously under-resourced, so we have to, to question every design decision, sometimes going against convention. I just believe, as Project Impactive, we've been doing that all along, and now we've got COVID, we'll certainly be able to continuing to do the same again. So I think one of the ways that Project Impactive does is, if I think about the social model of disability, in which our disabilities are caused by the environment around you. For a very classic example is a classic tabletop. And if you think about Project Impactive, at the moment, frustratingly, all we're doing is we're putting plasters on it. We're only addressing the end point, So, for instance, making something work. Whereas the way I would like to see, Project Impactive, this is the long-term aim, is to actually go at root causes, so to make things perhaps more flexible from the ground up. So, for instance, using 3D printing, so customization is the de facto standard. So the environment is designed at the very starting point to be very flexible. And I think as a group of UCL students, and with our University College London being very into innovative, sustainable design, I think it is a responsibility of Project Impactive going forward to actually include being sustainable for everyone, and that includes disabled people, as well as, it's still very important, the environment, of course. So the things that I'm most excited about Project Impactive is really kind of, expanding our work, helping more people, perhaps taking on higher risk projects, more impactful projects, but also, continuing to make able-bodied people, feel more confident to interact. We just say people getting rid of that stigma, helping that integration, so almost we can work side by side as one. And I just think that's just so critical to catalyzing that change, because if we equip people with a true understanding of the potential of disabled people, I think change will be brought about much quicker, because they will realise the trade-offs are very small for the potential impact of what we're trying to speak for today. Okay, so I've already talked a little bit about how Project Impactive feeds into independent living. I think also another aspect is that I find as a disabled person, I can quite often get adjusted to a new normal. I know it's been said a lot because of coronavirus, but I think it happens a lot as a disabled person. You kind of assume you want to do something. And sometimes you can, independent living, you may just assume a non-independent life just to be the normal. So you don't necessarily aspire to live an independent normal. And I think by showing people what the potential is, if they have a customized product, because customized product, it just helps them raise their aspirations and go, okay, hang on a sec, perhaps there is another way around this, perhaps there is a way I can live an independent life. So one of the ways I believe that Project Impactive can continue on making the existing solutions much better comes to this idea of empowering disabled people, because at the moment, I think sometimes it's multiple steps, it takes to develop a project. Sometimes, you may make one person a particular, a unique, bespoke project, but then what that kind of leads to massive, almost the key being unlocked into further possibilities, and it kind of goes on a journey of, moving from product to product. So it's that kind of journey that I want to so with the people that we work with, I want to go with them, help them to develop this kind of imaginative approach. Because one of the most challenging things with Project Impactive is, actually understanding what does the client want. And that comes to what I've talked about previously, in the fact that people get used to a new normal. So it's it's trying to, let the client lead, because it's their life, it's their opportunity, but we want to stand there supporting them to achieve the best, to empower them, and to empower them to do it all over again. And hopefully even, this is a long way off, but we would love to, as much as possible, to teach disabled people to make bespoke products for themselves. This is certainly possible with 3D printers. That kind of process would be really exciting. I still need to think about it. I haven't quite worked it out, but it certainly is one of my loon shots that you might say. So here are the ways you can get involved watching this. So number one, if you're a UCL student, just search us on Google, Project Impactive, our website should come up, and just drop us a message. But we'd love you to have you along. We're always on the lookout for more engineers, because that means we can take on more projects. And so if you're not a UCL student, there are other things. We're always looking to expand our partners as well. So perhaps we currently work with Remap and Meru, which we've talked about previously. So if you know any partners, or you're interested in helping us source projects, provide expertise to the engineers, we'd love to hear from you too. And thirdly, if you're able to provide any resources, whether that's financial backing, or perhaps some maker spaces across London, we'd love to hear from you too.